sports personality that we've had on ever, I think. So I'm just going to introduce him and let him talk to you about what he does. Hello, Zidan. How's it going? Thank you for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me. I know we've been trying to get it sorted for a while.
I know. How long have we been talking for now? About a month?
I think longer than that. I think when was the British Curry Awards? End of November?
Something like that.
Something like that. We've been speaking for a while, but obviously haven't been able to make times meet. But yeah, it's a good time.
It's good. Well, we're here. That's the main thing. It's good to kick off the year. And you're actually travelling back to Spain soon, aren't you?
Yeah, very soon.
Cool. So for the viewers that don't know who you are, Zidan,
why
don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name's Zidan Miah. I'm a professional footballer. I play for Rayo Vallecano in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only, if not the only, British Bangladeshi out playing in Spain, or even in Europe, or even top flight football. I know there's Hamza Chowdhury out there playing for Watford. He's on loan from Leicester. That's me. That's who I do. That's what I do. And not many people know the person. A lot of people see the football and things like that, but not many people know me deep down inside.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
21, so you're quite new into your career, I'd say, for what you've been doing.
I'd say so, but
as a professional, how long have you been a professional for now then?
Just over a year.
Cool.
So, but I've been playing football since I was 7.
Of course, yeah.
So doing it for about.
Well, judging by your name, it sounds like you probably been playing football ever since you was born.
Well, funny enough,
did your parents know that you was going to be a footballer or something?
So when I was born, I'll bring it right back. When I was born, I was about 6 weeks premature. So I was born 7th of March 2001. And I was actually due end of April. So I was about 7 weeks premature. And my dad wasn't there when I was born.
Okay.
And he would tell you this story himself.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically, he was out in Bangladesh. I think there was a family wedding. And once he heard I was born, you think he'd come back the next day. No, he stayed. I think he actually extended it the other way.
He was avoiding you, basically.
Basically. And then when he flew back, I think he flew through Dubai and he stopped and he got me a football. And I'll send you the picture. You can put it up on the screen now. Very first time he met me, he gave me a football. And obviously I was named Zidan. And my dad always said, oh, you're going to be a footballer when you grow up. And funny enough, I actually hate football. When I was 4 or 5, I really didn't like it. So we have like pits, what I call it, like a football pitch, at the end of our road, like goals. What was goals back in the day? And I remember going there, I remember kicking the ball around, and I didn't like it. You just come home crying. I hated it. And then I think that was 5, 6, and then something clicked when I was 7. I went to the David Beckham Academy, started playing football. I started going to my dad used to play at the time, semi-professional or Sunday League or something like that, and I started going to the games and started kicking the ball on the sideline. And
so wait, that was at 7 years old?
This was around 7-ish.
So you were still super young at
still very
times.
Very young. But when I was,
how did you? So I feel like we've now jumped with what you've done, because from being born to suddenly going to the David Beckham Academy, that's what our conversation has gone. But because I went to David Beckham Academy for like a day to try out, no way was I good enough to even train there. But because it's tough, that process of even, I remember like seeing like 6 goals, like miniature goals, and the person would kick the ball to you, you'd have to kick it into the goal or the designated goal, whatever it is, and it's not easy. Like, it's so hard to do. But I remember when I was playing football back then, it was to see how hard that stuff is, and that is when I knew that I would never make it, because I was just like, it's not happening.
How old are you?
I was just maybe about 12, 13 years old. Yeah. But so who took you to the David Beckham Academy, and why did you go there?
It's a funny story actually. I didn't like football. So when I was first introduced to it, I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. To be honest, I was scared. Scared of what? I don't know. But I was scared. I used to come back crying to my mum, and my mum always used to say to my dad, like, "Oh, stop taking football," something like that. And
so Dad was very involved in the sense of making you. He was involved,
but nothing was forced. Nothing, and it's been like that my whole life. It's always been, if you want to do it, you do it for yourself, and I'll support you in any way I can. And it was never like, oh, you have to be a footballer. I've given you the name Zidane. You have to be a footballer. It was never like that.
I disagree. I think that he's like, he knew, he was like, you're gonna be a footballer now.
Yeah. So I think I can't remember what the turning point was. So when I was 6 years old, my auntie passed away. And I remember she was football mad. She was a Chelsea supporter, and she loved football. And I remember her saying, "Oh, you're gonna grow up to be a footballer because you got the name Zidane." And I remember coming back and thinking, "Oh, I'm not gonna play football. I don't like it." And I remember after she died when I was 6. I was thinking, you know what, maybe give it a go, give it a try. She's not the only reason. There was many factors behind it, but maybe one of the reasons. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. So, when you went to the David Beckham Academy, what is it that you did there?
I think it was just more introduction into football. It was a closed, controlled environment, and it was more go kick a ball, have fun. More like a hobby rather than, oh, we're going to train you to be a footballer sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's more for fun.
So it wasn't like drills and stuff like that?
It was drills, but it was more like everything we do now is everything's got a purpose behind it in terms of, oh, we've got a game on Saturday, we've got to do these drills, we've got to get you fit. Back then it was just more kick a ball, have fun. If you enjoy it, it's a good thing. If you don't enjoy it, then you don't have to do it.
Yeah, of course. So take me back, Zidane. So let's say where you grew up. Where did you where was you brought up?
So I was born at Guy's Hospital in London, and I grew up South East London, Catford, Bromley area, and went to school there. And then I went to a school called Holbeach Primary School. Then I went to Farrington's secondary school, which is in Chislehurst, and then I moved out to America. I lived in Ohio for 1 year. I went there on a sports and academic scholarship. Then lived there for 1 year. Then lived in Texas for 6 years until I was 18. 18, moved back to England, and then now I live in Spain. So
you've been around.
I've been around. There's a lot of pieces to the jigsaw.
So how long was you in, let's say, your early life in Southeast?
Yeah,
Southeast London, isn't it?
We still live in the same house.
Yeah.
So even when I come back, that's what I call home.
What's parents' background then, mum and dad?
So my mum was born in Bangladesh but raised in England. My dad was born and raised here, in England as well. And
are they like working class family? Like, what's the deal?
I would say so, yeah.
Right.
So my grandfather on my dad's side came to England, and my dad was kind of like first gen British Bangladeshis. And yeah.
Did they do like factory work and stuff back then, or was it like more academic?
My parents or my grandparents?
Both.
My grandparents, I can tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. My parents, my dad owns a chain of restaurants now. I know.
Okay.
When he was younger, he used to work in the youth service, helping kids and stuff like that.
Oh, that's nice. So you know about the restaurant, Indian restaurant trade, I'd say, or Bangladeshi. Let's be a bit more specific.
To be honest, I have no.
You've never done it.
I've never done it. I've got. If you look at my weekly, daily, monthly schedule, there is really no time to get away from it. I mean, I'm always told, but I think it was my coach Alejandro in Spain for Rayo Vallecano. He said it. He was the first one to say it, and he's like, "Look, I don't care what you do on the pitch. I know you're talented. I know you've got technical ability. I know you're a good player. If you weren't a good player, you wouldn't be here. I'm more worried about what you do off the pitch. It's more the 22 hours off the pitch than 2 hours on the pitch." And that kind of took me back, and it was like, well,
what did he mean by that though? Like,
it's everything. Football is not a 9 to 5 job. Football is 24/7. And what I mean by that is your diet, your sleep. Are you doing extras? Are you doing too much? Are you not doing enough? What time you going to bed? What time you waking up?
So tell us about what is your routine then? What does it take to be a professional footballer in that sense? Then let's talk about the 22 hours that you're not on the pitch for.
So the 22 hours, it's a multitude of things. If I've had a session and I'm like,
well, let's go through the 22 hours then. Okay. So what time do you start your day?
Normally start my day probably 6-7 o'clock in the morning.
And
right now it's different because I'm in rehab.
Yeah. So let's away from the rehab. Let's say you're full fit. You're in season now.
Yep.
You start was it 6 o'clock in the morning?
6,
What's the first thing you got to do?
I got to wake up, wash my face, brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And then just basic things. I always like to stretch in the morning, or roll the body out. because when you sleep, you feel a bit stiff when you wake up. And it's even more apparent after I've come back or I'm recovering from an injury. You wake up, you feel really stiff. And then I like to eat breakfast. I have to pray in the morning before I leave. If I don't do it, it is sort of like I feel a bit funny.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I always do it before I leave in the morning. Then go to training. Train from I think 10 to 12. I haven't been there for a while, so I think we train from 10 to 12, finish, come home. By the time you get home, shower, eat, everything, it's probably about 1-2 o'clock at least. Then normally I'd rest. We have recovery boots that we wear, or go to sleep for a little bit. So say you go to sleep at 2, you wake up at 4. And then everybody thinks the rest of the day is free. What I do is I try and do something productive, if that makes sense. So I'll go to the gym, and I don't necessarily have to work out. I can go to the gym, I can go to the swimming pool. It's non-impact. It helps your body, it helps your mind more than anything. Go to the gym, relax. Maybe if I felt the session wasn't hard enough, then do some extras. Stretch, relax, roll out, come back home, eat, sleep, same thing next day. So within that 24-hour period, there's not much time in terms of away from football, because not to boost myself up, but I've always had good technical ability. It was where on the physical side of things I was struggling, and that's where America came in. That's where they thought, you know what, it might be a good thing to go out there and maybe train. And we went out there at the Michael Johnson Performance Center in Ohio, and I think we went there for a 2-week training camp, and they offered me a 6-year scholarship until I was 18. And it was like, how's this going to work, sort of thing. And originally, I don't know the talks behind closed doors, because my dad was the one talking to them, and originally I don't think he told me straight away. I think it was more, let's see if you enjoy it, if you have fun.
Was it that he didn't tell you that you got the scholarship, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he still is very protective of me. And I think that's just natural, because he's always been by my side for everything. And I think it was more, he didn't want to add pressure, and it was, go have fun, and if you improve, that's great. And I was actually told about it by one of my coaches at Arsenal when I was younger, and it was more, go out there, see if you can improve your physical and physical side of your game, and if you can, then great.
Sorry, so I didn't know you was at Arsenal, so when was you at Arsenal?
I was at Arsenal, I think when I was 10.
Okay. So just before you went to America, you
just
was at
before
Arsenal.
I went to America.
So how did you get into Arsenal?
It wasn't Arsenal Academy. It was their soccer schools, or Centre Excellence, or something like that.
So is it something essentially you have to pay to go to this?
No.
Okay.
It was I think it was more them looking for talent, sort of thing.
Okay.
And yeah, I played for them, and then from there, one of the coaches there, because Arsenal had a partnership with Michael Johnson Performance Center, and they said, look into it, and see if you can go out there.
So is it that they offered it to you, or was it that, so is there a break between them offering it to you, or was it like kind of start tomorrow?
No. So they offered it in December 2012.
Yeah.
And then 2011, sorry. And then we went to visit again into April 2012.
Okay.
And it was more, okay, let's see if, because it was all done by school year.
Yeah.
So it would have been starting August, September anyway. So they weren't going to take me halfway through the school year.
Yeah, so like it's term time kind of thing, yeah?
Basically, yeah. And they were saying, come do another visit, see if you like it or not. And then we went back in April, fell in love with it, and then we figured out, me, my mum, and my younger sister Zara would move to America, and my dad and my older sister Sarah would stay here. So that was the decision to split the family apart.
So that was essentially the mate. So your family basically moved out there for you.
Yep.
That's crazy. With, like you said, you've gone out to America now. You've been out there for, how long were you out there for? 6 years?
I was out there for 6 years, yeah.
So does that cost a lot to go out there? Because you said a scholarship, right?
Yeah.
But then obviously your cost of living and stuff is all based on you.
So all the
Because I know what a lot of people are going to think, that you've had a silver spoon and something's been fed to you. But judging by what you're saying to me now, it's all been through your own hard work and maybe being at the right place at the right time.
I would say that, but also they took me in on an academic and sports scholarship. So I was 12.
So you were studying at the same time as doing
studying,
everything else as well?
When I would go to school, but I would only go to school from 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So it was like a half day, and then you train once.
So you've got GCSEs and all that stuff as well, yeah?
The American equivalent, yes.
Okay.
What it equates to, I don't know. I graduated from high school in America, and that's the most I know of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the costing side, I was 12 back then. So all of that would have been figured out between my dad and where I was training and all that kind of stuff. But I did have a scholarship to go and train and study there and all that kind of stuff.
I'm surprised that you haven't once said that anybody thought, because of where you're from, who you are, and your background, that you'd never be able to do this thing. You've not said that once.
I've definitely had it. And I've had it a lot from people of our own background.
Yeah, it'll always be people from your own background. But, like, even from areas that we're from. I'm from North London, you're from South London. But that's like South East London, sorry. But it's not common for South Asian people in general, regardless. And then to come from working class backgrounds and stuff like that, it's not common for our people to ever make it in something as big as you're doing it right now, and probably the ceiling. If we did look at people like Hamza Chowdhury and playing in the Premier League and stuff like that, it's not easy to get into those spots. So it's like, and I'm sure he had the same thing, like, you're never really gonna go as far as you can, but then evidently he's done it. So what have you heard? So tell me about some things that you've had.
I'm not going to name the club, but
you don't have to. But
there was a club here that said.
What team do you support? Sorry,
I support Man United.
Okay. So it wasn't Arsenal. No, I support Tottenham, because I'm from North London. I don't live here, but I was brought up around this area.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been told multiple times behind my back, to my face, you're never going to make it. You're never going to be anything in football. You're never going to equate to nothing in football. And you can take it two ways. You can have what I would call something like a victim mentality. And that doesn't mean no offense to nobody, but in terms of, he said that to me, I'm not going to be anything in football. Why should I keep trying?
But sometimes I don't feel like that's the immediate response, or it's more of a like subconscious thing. I feel like it affects people without them knowing. Like, someone constantly tells you 10 times a day that you're not going to be able to do something, even though you believe in yourself. Sometimes that will hit you when you do something bad.
I would say yes, but I've always had the mindset of, if you tell me no, I'm going to go show you yes. I'm going to do it better than what I said. So I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to do better than what I initially planned for.
What is it that you heard from the people at our people you were saying? What was it that they told you?
There's
the biggest insecurity I know already is, you're brown, you're not going to make it.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But to be fair, and I've got to thank my parents from this, even if they were told, because it wouldn't come directly to me. It would come more to my parents.
It always does.
And I was shielded from that. Even if they were told no, most of the time I would never know about it. And it was more focus on your football, do what you do best, and let's see where you can take you.
No, it's good, because I know, like, mainly it's good that you've got it from your parents, because it's also a lot of parents that put their own children down without knowing. Because, look, a lot of South Asians, a lot of ethnic people, like, their parents have found it hard to come to this country, you know, and build everything that they've built. And there's two ways that people go about it. It's either we're going to give our kids everything that we can give them so they can be footballers or whatever, fighters, whatever it is, or we can give them everything they can so they can study. And the normal thing, obviously, is let them be a doctor, an engineer, an accountant, or something like that. So, and I'm not sour about it, like, because in the sense of, you also have to understand we don't come from those privileged backgrounds. So you can understand why the parents and the grandparents are kind of like that. So the fact that you had your parents pushing you from the get-go to become a baller is probably one of the best things, and I'd probably say one of the most helpful things for you as well. So I'm confident in saying this, and you can tell me wrong, but were you the only brown person in the room every single time you was playing, whether it be in America, Arsenal, or?
I wouldn't say every single time. the further I went in my career, the less there was.
The less there was. I thought there would have been more as you're getting older.
No, the further I went, the less there was. I remember it was something to do with the FA when I was playing here in England, and it was, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a talent ID camp, or every few weeks they'd get together and stuff. And I remember there was 300 boys or 200 boys, something like that, and there was one Asian, which was me, and there was one other coloured person. Everybody else
was white.
Yep.
That's mad.
So,
but why do you think that's the case? No, and I'm saying this because only stories that people hear, the people from the early 90s. So now doing it in the midst of the 2000s, in the millennial era. So what is the reason that you think that you was one of the only coloured people there?
I couldn't tell you. Sorry, I couldn't tell you. I think maybe people didn't see it as an actual career, because when you're younger and you look up to somebody and there's no one like you. Like, I remember when I was growing up, there was you couldn't put on the TV and say, "Oh, there's a guy that plays for Man United. Look, he's Bengali."
Yeah.
Even now you can't say that.
You can barely even say the Asian people.
Asians.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it was that. Maybe it was.
We do have that syndrome as Asian people. Is if it's not
done yet,
there,
don't do it.
yeah, or like it's not attainable because no one's done it yet.
Yeah.
Did you get treated differently?
I think I never thought of it that way. And I was never, at the time, I think I might have been oblivious to it, because I never thought of, oh, if he's not Bengali, I'm not going to play, sort of thing. Or
I had this conversation with someone recently, like on this podcast as well, with Rackstar, because I was saying to him, like, when I was younger, when I was in school, I never really understood racism. But when I think back to it now, I'm like, yo, that was bare racist what you lot were doing in them days. So it's like, looking back at that now, was there anything that was around that in them days?
I think I was too oblivious to it. I think it was more go play football, go have fun. But when I look back now, when I think about it now, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I mean, I'm not going to speculate anything, but I think looking back at it with an elder perspective, in terms of I'm much older now, I understand how the world works more. I'm not an expert by any means, but
you've done a lot of traveling, so you probably know a lot more than me sometimes when you think about it, because it's not always the age, it's also what you've been through, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I feel like from an early age you've been through something that is very, very hard. A lot of pressure has been put onto you because of your talent. What's the obstacles you've had now up until, I mean, you're still a young man, 21, so it's like, if you had any big obstacles right now?
I mean, the biggest one I'm facing now is the biggest injury of my career. I mean, I've ruptured my Achilles back end of last season. And I've had surgery once before. That was in 2019 when I tore my meniscus in.
I remember that.
Horrible
Instagram.
Challenge in training. But the Achilles is, I mean, it's like no other. And
how did it happen?
So it's a hard subject for me to talk about. And I remember you messaging me saying, "I'm going to make you cry." And this is probably the only thing that will, or talking about my family.
Sorry, we need some clarification on that, because everyone's gonna think I'm super mean.
No, you're not. He's not mean. He's not.
So
mean.
What he's actually saying, and what he means, is that a lot of people come onto his podcast and end up crying because they spoke about certain topics. But we'll try now to not make you cry. So yeah, go on, tell us the story.
So, I mean, where do I even start? It was back in of last season. So I think there was 3 games to go, 2 after this one. And this is for Real Vallecano. This is in Spain, back last year, and end of May, I think May 29th, I think it was. 2 weeks before, I'll give you a bit of backstory. 2 weeks before, my grandfather passed away, and my mum came back from America, and she went to his funeral, his janazah and everything, and my mum and dad were together, and then they both came to Spain together. And a bit more backstory is my dad hadn't missed a single game. The whole of 2022 calendar year, he hadn't missed a single league match. That was on the weekend. So for me, it was more. He was in England for my grandfather's janazah and everything, My mum was there. Then they both came to Spain. They both watched me play, I think the week before, May 22nd. And to be fair, I had an amazing game. And my mum doesn't come back. She hadn't seen me play very often because obviously my sisters are in America, so she can't leave them by themselves.
Yeah.
So she came back and I was like, my mum's here. I'm going to put on a good performance. And my grandfather's just died and everything. Then the following week, they went back to America, and my dad went with her, and he said, "Look, I'm going to miss this game, and I promise you I'll be back for the next one." Because there's only 2 games left of the season, and he's like, "I'm going to miss this game." I said, "Yeah, you know what? Mum needs you more than I need you. Go support her." And I didn't think much of it. I mean, to be honest, it was like any other game, really. It was the same preparation, nothing changed, and it was a home match. So game starts, we go down 1-0 very early, so we're losing 1-0, come back 1-1.
Sorry, what position do you play?
I play left wing back,
cool.
or right wing back. So I do a lot of running.
Yeah.
So game starts, we go down 1-0. Then we pull it back 1-1. Then they score. Then they scored once. It was 2-1, and then just before half time we scored again. So we're going at half time. It's 2-2. We're playing really well, and obviously we just scored, so we got a bit of momentum. And the manager's pressing us like we got to go for the win. We got to go for the win. So then come back out the change room, back onto the pitch. Second half starts, and start playing. Everything's good. They score straight away. It's now 3-2. And then I can't remember what happened. I think on the bounce we scored like 2 goals in like 5 minutes, and now we're winning 4-3, and we're trying to see the game out. And they've just got I think they just had a red card, so they're down to 10 men. They're up against it. He's like, go for one more. You get one more. It's 5-3. You kill them. And I was playing on the side of where the bench is, so I'm getting little bits in my ear every run. Oh, Zidan, you gotta do this. You gotta do that. Okay, I'm taking it in. But behind them is the away fans, so I'm also getting a bit sick. Like they're shouting and screaming, whatever. I remember my dad not being there because every home match, my dad sits in the same spot. Everybody knows his dad's spot, or it'll be around that seat. I remember subconsciously just looking into that seat a couple of times, because if I'm having a crap game or something, my dad would be like, get your chin up. Forget about it. If I'm having a good game, he'll just put his thumbs up or something. I remember looking into stands, but not even thinking about it. Just the ball's gone out. Let me check my shoulder. Let me look. It's not there. And I remember thinking that, but it didn't. I was thinking about the game more. It was just subconscious. My dad's not here. And then I remember getting the ball. So they've just had a shot. It's gone out. We have a goal kick. The left centre back gets the ball. He gives it to me, and they're down to 10 men. So they're a bit all over the place in terms of position wise. And I remember, if you say this is the byline, I got the ball right here, and there's a player right here, but he didn't press me. I didn't know that until afterwards. So I got the ball and I'm dribbling out like 5-10 yards. And earlier on in the game, I had an assist to where the number 9 made a run, and I played it down the line for him. And he scored, and he was making the exact same run. So I'm looking up, and I see him making the run, and I go to kick the ball, and then I don't remember anything. And I think I've gone down. I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm thinking, oh, I've just been kicked. Like, it's no big deal. I've just been kicked. And then I'm milking it a little bit. I mean, we're winning, so I'm wasting a little bit of time on the floor. And then I'm literally on the halfway line, right next to our bench, and the physios come over. The coach is like, "Oh, yeah, are you good? You good? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm good. I'm fine." And then I got up. I just thought it was a kick, so it's just an impact injury.
So what is it you felt? An impact?
I felt I've been kicked in like the back of my calf.
Okay.
Because your Achilles is the long tendon that runs behind you, behind your leg. So I thought it was just an impact injury. It's no big deal, and there's no blood. There's none of that because it's ruptured. So I get up, and because when you're injured, you've got to go off the pitch and come back on the pitch. You've got to wait for the referee to wave you on. And I started walking. I took one step with my right leg, and everything was fine. I took one step with my left, and I fell to the floor. And that's when I thought, like, what is going on? Because I felt like extreme pain that I've probably never felt before. In terms of, I just fell down. I was like
how did that pain feel? Like, if you can describe that pain.
It was like someone. I mean, I've never been stabbed, so I couldn't tell you definitely. But it's like someone had a knife and like stabbed the back of your leg.
Okay.
And it was just like incredibly bad pain. I remember screaming. And I fell back to the floor, and they knew straight away, like, you gotta get the stretcher. He's not gonna walk. And I remember when I fell back down, I looked into the stands, and I looked for my dad. He wasn't there. And I felt that missing presence, if that makes sense. And then when I fell back down, I was like, okay, this is bad. This is really bad, because I can't even take a step. And at the time, it was more like I didn't want to believe it was bad, if that makes sense. So I'm being carried back now to the changing room. Game's still going on. They made a sub. So I get back to the change room. I go into my bag, get my phone out. First person I call is my dad. My dad, because he's in America at this time. So I'm like, Dad, I've been kicked. I'm injured. I think it's bad, but I don't know how bad it is. I'll be alright. We got a game next Sunday. I'll be alright. Dad's kind of panicking because he knows I go through thick and thin. Like, I'll go through anything to keep on playing. And if I've come off, it's got to be for something bad. So he's kind of panicking, and the club are like, okay. They assessed it. At the time, it was starting to swell up quite a lot. I'm thinking I've just been kicked. At this point, nobody's told me that I haven't been kicked. So when I'm sitting there on the phone...
Oh, wait, so you haven't been kicked at all?
I haven't been kicked at all. So at this point, I've got no clue of it. I just think, there's someone behind me, about 5-10 guys. I was dribbling. He must have been tracking me. He's gotten pissed off or something, and he's kicked me. So I'm thinking, okay, it's an impact injury. He hasn't broken nothing, because I can't feel nothing. I can feel my ankle's fine, my bones are fine, my leg's not broken.
Yeah. So
what is it? Like, what's happened? And I'm sitting on the phone to Dad while the physio's there, and obviously I'm speaking in English. The physio speaks very little broken English, so he doesn't understand what's happening. He doesn't. I said to him, because I speak Spanish as well. Yeah. So I said to him, look, I'm gonna call my dad, tell him what's going on. He's like, yeah. You tell him. And I've told Dad in English, and he's he's obviously not understood it, the physio. So then he's like, okay, we've got to get you a scan. And I was in quite a bit of pain, so he was like, look, you can either go now, you can go get the scan now, or you can rest, leave it overnight, and we'll go first thing in the morning. I was like, okay, let's go tomorrow morning. Because at this point, I've also played 80 minutes of a game. So I don't want to go around crutches to go get a scan and sit around and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to relax, go home, have a shower and everything. And then me being kind of naive, I was like, maybe tomorrow will be all right. And I remember I went home. It's very difficult because I was on crutches. I went home, showered, and I kind of I sat back and I analysed, and I thought, how's that happened? Like, was I not checking my shoulders? Did I hold the ball too long? Like, what did I do wrong in that situation for even to allow that player to get to me? At this point, I still have no clue that nobody's kicked me. So I go in the next day. I go into the club, Rayo Vallecano, and I go in and the physio's there and everything, and he's like, how's it feeling? He takes a look, and at this point, it's like double the size. So the left leg is like double the size of the right leg.
Have you got photos of all of that as well?
I have, yeah.
I mean, you have to send them to me so I can show everyone the impact.
Yeah, so it was grim. It was disgusting. And it was huge compared to the other one, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's just kicked me really hard. And then, obviously, I go to get the scan. Oh, no, before I went to get the scan, I remember there was one of my friends there. He was injured at the time as well, so he was in early, getting some work done with the physio. And the physio goes, oh, how's it feeling and everything? He goes, I'm like, yeah, it's hurting, but it's not too bad. I can put a bit of pressure on my leg, so I feel like nothing's broken because if I can move my leg around, if I can put a bit of pressure on it, I'm all right. And then I sit back because I was analysing the night before. I didn't sleep. I slept maybe not even an hour. And I go to him, so how's it happened? Like, how's he kicked me? How have I not realised that? Have I not checked my shoulders and passed the ball off or something like that? And he goes, you weren't kicked. And that's when the penny kind of dropped. He goes, you weren't kicked. I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, no, I was kicked. Like, I was so adamant I was kicked. I was so sure of it. And I went, no, I was kicked. I know I was kicked. And he goes, no, no, you weren't. And I'm speaking in Spanish to him. So then I'm sitting there thinking, is something lost in translation? Because my Spanish is good, but it's not amazing.
Yeah.
So I was like, is something lost in translation? So that's when I went to my friend. I said, look, can you translate for me? Because I think something's been lost. And because he's injured, he was watching the game. He was sitting on the halfway line on the opposite side. And he's like, oh, would you want me to translate? I'll translate for you. I was like, okay, he's saying I've been kicked. I haven't been kicked. I know I haven't been kicked. And he goes, he put his arm around me and he goes, what, you think you've been kicked? He's like, no, I'll tell you, from me to you, you haven't been kicked. I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God. Because, you know, when you're kicked, it's an impact injury. But when somebody goes down by themselves,
you know it's serious.
You know it's bad. So I was watching one of the Leicester games the other day, and I think someone called Justin James did his Achilles, and it was very, very similar to how I did mine. It's just no one kicked you.
Did that come into your head straight away? That was what happened?
No, because this was recent. This was like 2 weeks ago. But when I did the injury, I had no idea of how somebody ruptured their Achilles. And to be honest, I really thought, like, deep down, I thought I'd been kicked. And it's only when my friend said to me, or my teammate said to me, you haven't. That's when the penny kind of dropped, and it was like, okay, this is serious. And I remember being in that medical room, and I just started crying, and it was, I mean, not many people know this story. I remember crying, and the physio was there, and he started hugging me. He's like, look, it's gonna be okay. Let's get the scan done and everything. And
well, why did you cry? What was going through your head at that time?
Because I knew. I knew. I mean, I've had multiple injuries before, and you know when something's bad. But what I had thought and what actually happened were two complete different stories. And I know in the past where players have always gone down by themselves, it's always something that's really bad. Because for your body just to stop like that and almost give up, like my Achilles just, I'm not going to say it gave in, but it snapped. It snapped in half. So for that to happen, something was wrong. And I knew, once he said it, I kind of put two and two together. Like, my leg was huge. There was no bruising. There's no lumps anywhere. Like, if you're kicked, you know, or if you bang your head, you get a lump on your head. There was no lumps anywhere, and I was like, okay. Slowly, it started to add up to a point where, okay, this is bad. And then got the scan. Result came back. I think so. The game was on Sunday. This was on Monday, and the club actually, they wanted to operate on Tuesday, and I was like, they told me the rehab plan, and they said, look, it's going to be at least 9 to 12 months out.
What's the operation that?
So it's basically it's called an Achilles repair. Okay. So if your Achilles is like this,
yeah, it's
separated into two. They've got to stitch it back together.
Okay.
And they told me the rehab would be 9 to 12 months, or at least 8. And they said you're not really going to get back quicker than 8. And I remember they gave me a whole bunch of like documentation outlining everything, and I was like, in my head I went, I can't do this. I can't do 8 months. And that was just the initial thought.
Was it that you can't take 8 months out?
I was like, at first I was like, it's not going to be 8 months. And second, when I started researching it and looking into it, I was like, I can't do 8 months. Like, compared to where I was a year ago, I just signed for Real Vallecano. I was on top of the world, and now all of a sudden, I'm gonna be out for 8 months. Season's only 9 months long. Sometimes, I mean, give or take. So it's like, hold on, you're gonna be out for a whole season. And then I asked them, I was like, look, when do you expect me back? They said, look, you'd be lucky to play again next season. You'd be lucky. And they gave me an example of, I think it's Spinazzola for Italy. He did his in the Euros, and he didn't play a single minute the following season. And it's like, okay, go look at players that have done it. There have obviously been players that have done it quicker, but you can't. Everybody's different. I can't say, I'm going to do it in 9 months. Mine might be 18 months. But when they said, look, it's going to be 9 to 12 months, I was like, and bear in mind, I was in Spain by myself at this time. My dad found out the news. Obviously, he came to Spain straight away, and the stories or the things I could tell you behind closed doors, what actually happened, like basic things you don't even think of. When you're on crutches, it's really hard.
Yeah.
So I get all of my food made for me. It's all in containers, but where the fridge is, where the containers are, where the fridge is and where the microwave is, are not right next to each other. So when you're on crutches,
I know. I've been on crutches. I was on crutches in November, I think, or September. No, sorry, September. I was in crutches, so I know. It's like the simple things, like just like moving around, for example.
Yeah. So I remember. So where I live in Spain.
So where do you live in?
I live in Madrid.
In Madrid, okay.
I live in Madrid. I live in an apartment complex, and where you park the car is 2 floors down, okay. And I think I live on the 2nd floor or something like that. And I remember. I think it was the second day. I think this was the Monday when I came back from the scan, or when I came back from the club or something. My head was everywhere, and I left my phone in the car. And where I live, there's no because it's a new complex. There's no lift, so I went up. I think I counted. I think it's something stupid like 95 or 100 stairs with crutches. I went all the way upstairs into my apartment, unlocked the door, sat down,
realized
I left my phone. So I got all the way back down.
No way.
It gets worse. I went all the way back down, got it. And then I got back upstairs. And then I'm thinking to myself, I've left something else. And I think the phone rang, and Dad was like, what did they say and everything? And I've realised I've left the documentation that they gave me of the report of what happened, like the results of everything. I left that in the car. I was like, oh my God. I got to go all the way back downstairs again and come back all the way upstairs again. And that was hard. Basic things.
Well, 100 flight of stairs walking is hard, let alone doing it on crutches.
It's not 100 flights. I think it's like seven flights.
7 flights, but 100
stairs on crutches.
Steps,
It was horrible in terms of going through it. And when I was told 9 to 12 months, I was just like, I can't do that. That's not going to happen. It's not going to be 8 months.
What was it that you was scared of at that time?
I was scared of not being the same again.
Okay. Physically or mentally?
I think a little bit of both. Because anybody that's had an operation knows you're not really the same again afterwards. I've had my knee operated on. And it's been better ever since I tore my meniscus. My right leg has actually been a lot stronger. But you also hear the flip side of it, the bad side of it. Oh, I had an Achilles surgery and didn't go the way I want. I had to retire from football. And I was told...
is this what you're like hearing or seeing, or is it just the stuff you're searching on the internet? Because it's what everyone does immediately.
It was everything, because you know what? Between the time of Achilles rupture and Achilles surgery, I didn't sleep more than an hour a night. That's and that's not sleep 1 hour and then up for 23 hours. It'd be like 10 minutes and then wake up, and it's just you get scared of things.
Yeah.
You just get scared of basic things, and it's like, am I even going to be able to walk again? You go from training every day, putting 100%, pushing your bodies to absolute limits, to not even being able to walk, something you've known since you were a baby. Like it's really scary to think of. And I remember thinking, am I going to be the same again? And this is all initial thoughts. I think it took a few days to process the whole thing, everything that happened to it. And I think I got to a point where it was like a switch. You know, you can't think like that. Okay, it's happened. You got to move on.
So did you like switch off during that? So how long was that switch off period for?
It was for quite a while, to be fair, because so the injury happened on the Sunday. The results came back on the Monday, and then the club wanted to operate on the Tuesday. But once we found out everything in terms of recovery time and what the rehab entailed, I was in a boot for 8 weeks or 7 weeks or something like that. And it was, okay, the season's finishing in 2 weeks. I was supposed to go back to my family for 4 weeks, spend some time with them, and then come back to Spain. But if you're telling me I'm going to have surgery, I can't. I think they told me something like I couldn't fly for the first 3 months. When you're flying high and you're up there, people love you. But when you're down low, that's when you find out who's really there for you.
Yeah.
And I could probably count on one hand how many people really know what I went through. How many people really understand everything mentally what I went through. Because it's not easy when they're saying to you, oh, you're going to be stuck in bed for 2 weeks.
Do you feel like people feed off that energy as well? You know, when you're down?
I feel like people do.
I think they do without knowing as well. You know, like when things aren't going right, there's a lot of people say things like...
They're paying more attention.
Yeah, because they're like... There's certain people in your life that want to see you do well, but not better than them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like, it has that same kind of respect in the sense of, if you're down, yeah, they'll be there for you, they'll understand, but will they do that little bit extra more to make sure that you're all right? And that's sometimes a phone call, but sometimes that means like really understanding what that person's been through.
Yeah.
So did you feel like a bit of that? Like, I'm sure you're going to tell me bare stories now, but loads of doctors come out at this point.
No, it was... I had my team around me. And
when I say doctors, I mean people who think they're doctors,
but
not actually doctors.
Media. Yeah.
Social media around you, family, friends, whatever.
The thing is, when it actually happened, I didn't publicize it. I didn't put it out there until we knew what the actual strategy was. Am I going to have surgery in Spain? Okay, what's the rehab process? What's the rehab plan? Because I knew all those questions were going to come. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'll post one thing about the injury. I'll post one thing about the surgery. I'm not going to touch social media because what's the point? I think I just wanted to be secluded. I wanted to be away by myself and not have anybody around me, if that makes sense.
Was that the right decision, you think, at the time?
Hindsight, maybe yes, maybe no. But what I would say, I wouldn't go back and change anything. Because, I mean, after surgery, who wants... I mean, I love my family to bits, don't get me wrong, but who wants 5, 6, 7 people coming seeing you in your room and, you're going to be okay. That sort of thing. And it's just like, it's something you just don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Cause,
is that what was happening though?
I mean, we have a big family anyway, but I hadn't been back to England since December. So, and this was now June. And obviously I haven't seen the wider family since
So you had a lot of visitors, basically.
I had a lot of people. And they wouldn't just come up to my room. Like, my dad would come ask me, oh, this person has come to see you. Do you want to see them? And it might be a bad thing, but sometimes I said no. I was like, look, I don't want to see anyone. I respect that they come to see me, but I don't want to see anyone because I don't want to be around anyone. And I think it was really tough for the people around me to have been around me around that time because I snapped at everything, every little thing. It was like...
What was it? So evidently there was a bit of anxiety in you. And what was the main thing that you was feeling anxious about?
I think prior to surgery was getting everything done. You know, let's have the surgery. Let's make sure everything's okay. And I think in between that time, it was something like 10 days to get the results, travel back to England, see the surgeon, get another scan here, and then get the surgery done. I think that process was 10 days or 2 weeks, something like that, which is usually a little bit like... I mean, the club wanted to operate the next day when they found out. But obviously for me to travel back and everything like that, it took a little bit of time. And I remember there was... they gave me injections to take because it thinned your blood. Yeah. So I can't remember what it's called, but...
Another one, because cancer patients take those as well.
You know, like my granddad, he takes insulin every day. Yeah. So you've got to grab your stomach a little bit and you've got to put it in. And I have a huge, huge phobia of needles. Like really, really bad. And it was to the point where I had to be injected every day with it to thin the blood so there's no blood clots. Even then, my foot went purple on the flight. It was horrible. And it was just like, I didn't want to do anything. I was like, what's going to happen if I don't take blood thinners? Are you going to get clots? I'm already injured. I don't care. But that was a wrong approach to it.
That's a serious thing if you get blood clots.
Exactly. Because it can do more damage. And I was told a stat I think this sort of switched my mindset a little bit. I was told a stat when I was just coming out of the boot, or I'd been in the boot for a couple of weeks. I went to see the physio, and he was like 33. But so it's 1 in 3. 1 in 3 don't play football again after an Achilles rupture. The other 33%, they're worse off. The other 33%, they're better off. And he was like, you decide which one you want to be. Do you want to never play football again? Keep going the way you're going. If you want to be worse off, don't put in any work. If you want to be better, you've got to get your head down. You've got to get your mind out of the state that it's in, and you've got to put in work.
So was that a mind thing that he's talking about, or a physical thing?
Everything around the injury, around the surgery, everything was in the mind. Everything. I mean,
what was the things that you heard from people? Like, did you then hear doubts about yourself and other people doubting you as well?
To me, I don't really listen to other people, and especially with the negative stuff. I know the close team I have around me, the people that I trust, and if they're telling me something, then it's something completely different. But if it's the wider circle, everybody has an opinion. Everybody always says, if you watch the Euros, Harry Kane should have done this. Luke Shaw should have done this. Pickford should have done this. Okay, but are you an expert in that field? Are you working with them day in, day out? Are you seeing what they're doing off the pitch to be able to make those judgments? And
because I do feel like now with footballers, it's not just, I'm probably at a higher level now, but do you feel like if you are Ronaldo, for example, how much following you have on Instagram does play a part into where you're being signed to?
It does. The Ronaldo situation is something completely.
That's totally different. But let's just say, like, you've got, in your situation, it's probably different in your situation. But let's say, for example, you was going to play in La Liga or Premier League football. Do they look at somebody and say, okay, Zidan, you've got 10K on Instagram, but then somebody else, Zidan number 2, has only got like 3K on Instagram. You're a better footballer, but he's got more followers. Do you think that kind of plays a part in the signing process?
There's definitely a business aspect to football, in terms of behind the closed doors, what happens in a football club. But I think mainly what football clubs look at is they do look at the overall picture in terms of your social media, what kind of presence you have. But I think it's more they rely on your football, because when you cross that white line, if you're not doing your job, and if they know they can get somebody better to do that job, they'll get someone better. And in football, there's always someone knocking on the door. There's always someone ready to take your shirt.
On reflection, I'm just thinking now, like, with the way it's a lot of pressure for you personally as a youngster, like, do you feel like you've missed out on a lot of stuff as well, choosing this life?
100%.
Because I started working when I was 16, right? So I remember my friends being out living life, and like I lost a lot of friends because I wasn't there doing that. Funny enough, I was working in my dad's restaurant in them days, so it's like between 16 to 18, from sixth form all the way to uni, I was working there, and my dad needed the help. So it's like, but I feel like he probably didn't need the help. He was just trying to keep me away from that social life. And I kind of, probably the best thing that I ever did. I learned so much there, but it kept me away from that and just kept me quite straight-headed. But do you feel like you, and I always think back, maybe I shouldn't have worked as much as I did, but at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen in those days. So it's like I could have been, I don't know what I could have been if I did that, or maybe I wouldn't have focused as much as I focus now, and I still have loads of other regrets that I should have focused more. But in that situation, but like, what do you think you missed out on during those years?
Especially being away from family when I was in America, even now when I'm in Spain, you miss out on a lot of things. I had zero social life, but to me that wasn't a problem.
What's the prospects looking like now for Asian players coming into professional football?
I mean, it's definitely looking good. I mean, you've got Hamza Choudhury, who's already at top flight playing for Watford. He's on loan from Leicester, I believe. Yeah. There's someone with the exact same name, and he's Zidan Miah. He's at Manchester United. Issa Salman, he's playing top division in Portugal, I believe, and Jan Danda, he's playing top flight in Scotland. So there definitely is names flying about. And I think it looks good. Because I think all we need really is that one person to break that barrier and consistently have a top career. Not like diminishing anything anybody else has done. And just, I think you need that role model, that one person to look up to. Because right now kids look up to Ronaldo and they think, oh wow, look at Ronaldo. If we had someone like that in the Asian world, by Asian I mean
a South Asian person doing the same thing.
Exactly. South Asian.
Do you think that's enough though? Because let's be frank about it, it's not just that the fact that we don't have, because definitely there is an Asian player of that ability somewhere in the world, but definitely there's something blocking them from getting there, right?
Football is many different aspects. I mean, luck can also be an aspect of it. Football is also about opinions. I mean, I've had multiple people tell me that you're never going to make it, and look where I am today.
Make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms as well, at Moving Famous. This episode will be up at the same time. The audio will be up on all social media platforms as well. So the main thing you need to do is like, comment, and subscribe. That's very, very important, because the bigger we get as a team, the bigger the podcast get, the bigger the bigger the guests get. And I learned that from watching, what's that geezer's name from Dragon's Den, Zach? Stephen Bartley's podcast. So I took it from that.
I watched his podcast as well.
Decent podcast, isn't it?